What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Bitcoin and Markets. My name is Ansel Lindner. Happy Monday. Monday is Bitcoin Fundamentals Report Day. That's every week I put out my free newsletter. So we're going to read through that. Of course, the news cycle is being dominated by the ETF approval that is pretty much imminent coming on Wednesday, but there is some other macro news. So we're going to go through that as well. We look at price. We look at headlines, we look at mining industry, we look at layer 2, deep dive every week here on Mondays. So if you guys are new, subscribe, comment down below. You guys can even comment down below and tell me things you would like me to cover on the show. I haven't done this in a while, just polling people to see what you would like to hear more. I cover a ton of macro. Friday, I did a demographics episode, but I want to hear from you guys what you would like to see more on the show. And I will get to the comments towards the end. So go ahead and ask me questions or whatever in the chat down below, and we'll do that. Okay, let's share the screen. Bitcoinandmarkets.com. That's where all my stuff is, where you can sign up for the free newsletter. And you can also sign up, of course, to support me monetarily over there. This is a listener and a community supported podcast. So I appreciate everybody that does support. All right, issue 272. This was a great meme I saw from Bitcoin Meme Hub. Big green candle above the clouds. This matches my chart a little bit. We'll see that later. Okay, let's move down here. Snapshot of Bitcoin. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Looks a little fuzzy. Okay, there we go. So weekly trend, we are ready for approval. Everything is locked and loaded. All the S1s got in. I think all the new S1s got in. There's a little bit of after hours back and forth I saw where Goldman Sachs is now trying to get a piece of the pie here. They are trying to be an authorized participant for BlackRock and others. We will see if that changes. But yes, everything looks ready for approval. We are in the window. Could happen at any time. Of course, we'll know when it will happen because we'll probably see a big green candle. Media sentiment, of course, very positive. I have not even heard much FUD at all. Right now, there's a lot of Bitcoiners taking a victory lap because, I saw somebody saying something about Peter Zion. This was, I think it was a year ago today is when he said that Bitcoin would be negative price, and we are 3x from where that was. So, all right, network traffic, very high. We'll take a look at the mempool and fees. Mining industry still growing rapidly. Everywhere you look, if you just type in, if you just Google Bitcoin mining news, every day we're seeing multiple reports of multiple miners acquiring thousands of machines. So mining is becoming extremely competitive and growing. I mean, it could grow 10 times faster if they produced more ASICs, but that is pretty much the limitation right now, I think. Okay, days until halving, 99. Price at the time of writing or publishing was 46,952. And let's just go to the chart real quick and see where we are at. Well, we're still at 46,957 right now. All right, where was I? Oh, crap, now I lost my tab. There we go. Market cap, getting close to that trillion. And remember, I've been using the $1 trillion denomination here for a long time because we are going to be a multi-trillion dollar asset very soon. Satoshis per dollar, 21.30. This will continue to decrease, right? As Bitcoin appreciates, you will be able to buy fewer and fewer sats with each dollar. 1 finny is my preferred denomination, 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin, $4.69. And I saw that the ETFs, they are going to be $44, or $46. They're going to be 1,000th. So what's that? What's the term for that denomination? It's not milli Bitcoin, is it? I can't remember now. Sats, bits, finny, and I think it's milli Bitcoin. I think that's what they're going to be denominated in. But a lot of people are talking about that is going to help the unit bias. If you see a share of a Bitcoin ETF at $46 versus seeing a whole Bitcoin price at 46,000, that's going to serve the unit bias. I think that's actually a very underappreciated point. It's going to feel like you can get in, where a lot of normies, they'll just look at the price and they'll be like, I can't afford that. Just like, if you look at a Berkshire A share, 500,000 per share, you can't afford that. I mean, the normie person can't get in to that, but they can get into Bitcoin at any price, right? You can $1, you can buy 2,130 sats. So, okay, mining sector, we did go up in difficulty a couple days ago, 1.5%. Not as big as the previous one. It was, I think it wasn't over 5%. 7% was the one before that. We'll take a look at the difficulty chart. Estimated next difficulty, it's running behind right now, -4% in 11 days, but we have time to catch up on that. Mempool, huge, 550 megabytes, if you can believe that. This was clear, I think, in October. We'll take a look at that Mempool chart here down below in the mining section. Fees for the next block. At the time of publishing, it was $4.93 or 72 sats per virtual byte for the average transaction. And that was to get into the next block. Low priority fee was the same, $4.93. Lightning capacity actually increased by 19 Bitcoins this week, up to 5,054. But the number of channels dropped by over 400, negative 0.7%, down to 58,800. We do have a layer 2 section this week. Some weeks I leave that out because there's not a bunch of news, but this week I added a story in for layer 2 down below. All right, next section. In case you missed it, I did write a Proton this week, the Bitcoin Singularity, and I make mention of that in my commentary down below. This Bitcoin Singularity is like, we can't see past it, right? So there's like this point when the ETFs are getting approved and launched, we can't really, I mean, we kind of can estimate that there's all this demand, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Is it going to be a sell the news? Is it going to be a buy the news? Is it going to be a sell the announcement but buy the launch? There is all sorts of things that can happen. Also, how big is the move going to be? Is the move going to be a 50% move, or is it going to be a 25%? It's very, very hard at this point in the chart, and with the ETFs coming, it's very hard to, estimate where we're going next. But we will cover all that. I did not get a new podcast episode out, but of course these live streams go out 3 times a week. Blog posts. Latest one is this shale and earthquake in the geopolitical order. So I talk a lot about Bitcoin and, of course, macro. I have a very unique macro perspective, and I think my thesis has served me very well over the last few years, making predictions in the market, not just Bitcoin, but macro in general. So, all right, Bitcoin Magazine Pro just didn't have a dashboard last week. We had some back and forth miscommunications with the editors over there, but we will be doing those dashboards. We have a market dashboard and a mining dashboard. And then I write a commentary about 250 words for each one of those. Those should come out every week. So 2 dashboards and a long form blog post. And this was a long form blog post of 2023 year in review, 2024 forecast. All right, headlines. So ETF approval, we made it. Finally made it, guys. I think it was June 15th is when BlackRock dropped their application. So it's been 6 months, over 6 months, almost 7 months, right? The 15th will be 7 months. But it's been a long time. A lot has happened in Bitcoin. We've learned a lot about the ETF process. We've learned a lot about traditional, like the demand out there from the traditional space. We've learned where Bitcoin fits, how Bitcoin is going to get to hyper Bitcoinization. One of my theories, has been that it doesn't really matter if 1 billion people in Africa each buy 50 cents worth of Bitcoin. It matters if 1 billionaire buys Bitcoin, right? And so that's what these ETFs are going to allow. It's going to allow for 30, 40, 50 trillion dollars in a market to get access to Bitcoin. Not all of that, of course, is going to buy, but they're going to have access. It's going to be approved as well, not just by the SEC. It's going to be approved by BlackRock, by Goldman Sachs. It's going to be approved by these big companies that believe in it enough to offer product in it, you know? And that also carries with it some sort of warm fuzzy, a security feeling for these people. All right. So first kind of headline is applicants are now fighting over fee structures. This came out this morning. They filed all their updated S1s, and these S1s spell out the nuts and bolts of these products. They were shocking. Quick note on ETFs, for those that don't know, is the fee, you do have a fee to hold the ETF. This is also called the expense ratio. That's like the technical term. It's like a management fee. And the average fee for commodity ETFs, I looked this up this morning, 0.76%. Fidelity had come in at 0.39%. So that's almost half of the average fee for these commodity ETFs. So yeah, they came in at that. This morning, Van Eck lowered theirs to 0.25 along with ARK. However, ARK is going to 0% for 6 months or until they have $1 billion in Bitcoin. Let's see. Bitwise did the same. They're a little bit lower. They're actually the lowest at 0.24 long term. So that's what they're saying is going to be the long-term fee going forward. BlackRock came in pretty strong at 0.3 as their introductory, but they have an introductory rate of 0.2 for 12 months or $5 billion. And remember, they have $2 billion lined up, ready to go on the first day. So they'll probably get to $5 billion pretty quick. Invesco followed with 0% for 6 months or $5 billion as well. So all these guys are really thinking that $5 billion could come in to their fund within 6 months. Okay, well, I guess BlackRock's saying 12, but Invesco is saying 6 months or $5 billion. 6 months or $1 billion here. So these are big numbers. And remember, there is a multiple. So it only takes, the multiple is about 100. So if $1 million buys Bitcoin, the market cap goes up by 100 million. That could be even more if we're talking about a supply crunch halving coming up. The normal cycle of Bitcoin, where the multiple could be a lot more even. Okay, so let's take a look at this a little bit closer. If I can bring this up, let's try. Come on, man. Why won't this open? Oh, I can't open it. I don't know why it's not opening, but let's zoom in here a little bit. And you can see ARK, 21 shares. They're going 0%, and their resting rate, or the eventual rate, is going to be 0.25. Again, very low. That's 50 basis points lower than the average in commodity ETFs. iShares, they are coming in at 0.2, but they'll settle at 0.3. Still a very good number. Bitwise is the lowest, 0.24, but only by 1 basis point compared to Van Eck. Let's see, Wisdom Tree at 0.5. Fidelity 0.39, Valkyrie 0.8. So Valkyrie, Hashdex, and these are kind of industry norms, 0.8 and 0.9. Those are industry norms, but these guys are coming in hard. It's a race to get who can get the most Bitcoin, and we will cover that here. Let me zoom back out. Okay, the issuers are in a race to get as many Bitcoin on the initial launch, because 0.25% is the same as 0.5% if the price of Bitcoin doubles. Okay, so they want to get as much. It doesn't really matter to them what the fee is. They want as much Bitcoin as possible right up front, so their assets under management can benefit from the price effect here. The incentives for the ETF issuers are to get as much Bitcoin as quickly as possible at the launch. They've set their fee structure. Now they are going to hit the advertising. I've been calling this a Bitcoin singularity because we can't see exactly what will happen. We will use some conservative assumptions. The price per Bitcoin becomes ludicrous pretty quickly. All right, let's move on. More ETF news. former SEC chair Jay Clayton. He was the SEC chair immediately prior to Gary Gensler, and we talked about him on Friday as well, how it's just crazy how the best possible SEC chairman just happened to be here and get these ETFs approved. Maybe that's why he was sent. But anyway, so Jay Clayton, he predicts a spot Bitcoin ETF approval is assured. There is no more decisions left. So that's pretty big coming from the guy who turned down a bunch of ETFs over and over and over again, these spot ETFs. And he says that it is now assured. Okay, next kind of story out there. The SEC isn't going to vote to approve the ETFs. They are approved by delegated authority. They are also approved by just running out the clock. And when I wrote this, or when I included this in here, I forgot to mention that. So the process is automatic approval unless it's denied. Okay, so as the clock runs out on these things, and does he have a date, most recent filing? But he doesn't have a deadline. I can't remember what the deadlines were. I don't think they were all January 10th, right? They went out a couple more weeks. But the deadline is, if it gets to the deadline, it goes past the deadline and it's not denied, it's automatically approved. But they say that Eric Balkunas here tweeted this out, and I just kind of broke out the important parts. The SEC has never voted on Bitcoin ETFs. So all of their denials and all their futures approvals, so for the futures ETFs, they were denied or approved via delegated authority. If they did vote, they'd have to have publicly scheduled a meeting. And I added, there are none. There is a publicly scheduled meeting for a different topic on the 11th, on Thursday, but there's nothing scheduled for this. So they are not going to meet and vote on this. This is going to be approved probably by Gary Gensler, or it's the time's going to run out and they're just going to be approved. If there were a vote, hard to imagine any possibility Gary would vote no, because A, there's no basis to deny. Remember, they went to court. The court called their logic like ridiculous. I can't remember the exact terminology they used, but the court said their logic was ridiculous. And there's no reason to have a futures ETF without a spot ETF. It just doesn't make sense. And I've said that for a long time on the show here. He is literally the one who directed the staff to put in thousands of man hours to work with 11 issuers on 5 to 10 rounds of comments, and most recently telling them that they want them lined up for 1/11 launch. Now, I hadn't necessarily heard that, but it could be launching the next day, approved on the 10th. They start trading on the 11th. That would be insane. Insane. Absolutely insane if that happened. Okay, so that is about the approval process. Let's go into a little bit of macro. Of course, in the price section, I'll talk more about the ETF, but let's do this. So macro. China's debt mountain is even bigger than feared. I've been talking about the inevitable collapse of the Chinese system for years. And I remember I would go back and forth with people, either on Twitter or when we would have guests on FedWatch, or we were interviewing experts, quote unquote experts, and they were all just China bulls. And the whole time I'm like, no, China's going to fall apart here. You know, they were built off foreign direct investment. They were built for a system, a globalized system that's breaking down. We're going into deglobalization. So their collapse, it's a certainty in my mind. I mean, I would put this certainty as high as a Bitcoin ETF that they will collapse. Their current system as it is will not exist in a decade. Okay, so that doesn't mean that China collapses or anything. That means they could kick out the CCP. The USSR lasted how many years? It was like 75 years, right? And the CCP just passed 75 years. I think they're like at 78 years. This makes sense. Okay, a communist system has a lifespan, which is actually kind of comforting. If the US gets taken over by these crazy Marxists, it has a lifespan, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. But anyway, Yeah, the USSR lasted for this long. China could just last for this long, and the CCP goes away, and they get some other uh, leadership. They get a new political party. They stop being communist. That will happen. It's just a matter of when that happens, how that looks like. Are they going to go down fighting? Like a drowned man is going to latch on to anything and anyone and pull them down with them, you know? So that could be what we see in China. We could see mass civil war, mass protests and a civil war in China. I actually think a civil war in China is more realistic than a civil war in the United States. So, anyway, years ago I said that they could either become Japan or North Korea, and I think the mainstream press is finally starting to see this, the connection to Japan here. Pretty soon they're going to see this connection though. They're going to see the North Korea connection. All right, actually, let me zoom in a little bit because it looks a little bit small. All right. Okay. From the article, Japan's descent into stagflation is an infamous economic tale known around the world. But at its start in the early 90s, it wasn't abundantly clear what was happening to what was the world's number two economy. So in 1989, it was like very popular to say Japan was going to overtake the United States. The exact same rhetoric. All you have to do is take out Japan and put China in there. And that's what we heard from, in 2010 about China. The exact same. What happened? At first, in the early 90s, people didn't want to believe that this Japanese miracle was over. But the Japanese banks and all this, they kind of pivoted to China, actually. A lot of Japanese money went into China. And the Chinese miracle started almost identical at the same exact time that Japan was going down. It rotated to China. The growth engine had to keep going. The Japanese miracle also, it lasted for about 40 years, 1950 to 1990. And then if you go from 1990 to, it would be 2030, is the end of the Chinese miracle, because remember they opened up in 1989 to the United States. So this is, or no, when did China open up? Now I'm going to have to Google that. Sorry, guys. I think it might be 79. Uh, 78. Yeah. So I was off by that. But okay, so from let's just say 1980, 2020. That's the end of the Chinese miracle. It's over. It's been 40 years. It took 40 years to blow the bubble, and now it's ending. All right. Much of the frustration of Japan's Ministry of Finance, there was I don't know what this word is, of keen financial analysts who warned that the country's debt problem was a whole lot worse than advertised and that economic growth wasn't going to magically make it go away. Fast forward to today, and something similar may be emerging with regard to China. All right, these guys are way late. They're way late on this. May be emerging. At least they're starting to see this, but they're still very late and they're not fully committed yet. Pretty soon, 5 years from now, they're going to be talking about this. North Korea. China is becoming North Korea. Okay. However, the timing of this historic debt bubble comes at a much worse time for China. China is already in a demographic collapse worse than Japan. So Japan is famous for having bad demographics. China is in a worse decline right now. 1.1, I think, is their fertility rate, and Japan is still above that. I think it's like, now I'm going to have to Google that too, so I don't say anything wrong. 1.34 in Japan, and China is at 1.1, and they're already shrinking. So that's a bad thing to happen at the end of your economic bubble. They have a president that is an unapologetic Marxist-Leninist bent on completing the second communist revolution in China. Xi has just really cranked down the levers of communism more and more over there in China. Therefore, I see China likely to slip towards North Korea more in the next decade. So that's going to be what we're hearing next. All right. Next macro or global news is the German farmers protest globalist taxes. If you are in Bitcoin and you're not following this Ava Vlar, she's the very attractive Dutch activist Bitcoin personality, and she is all over this farmer riot or farmer protest over there. Very similar to what we saw in the Netherlands, very similar to the trucker protest. This one in Germany is actually farmers and truckers. They also have people from the Netherlands and people from like Hungary and Poland there ready to get involved as well. I don't know exactly how much involvement they've had yet, but they are ready to support this effort. They're trying to push out the globalist reforms. They're trying to take these farmers' land, trying to add taxes onto diesel and things like that. And they're not having it. They're not having it. People are rising up all over the world. What I say here. So the Canadian truckers won and changed everything. That's what I think. The globalists are scrambling to adjust to peaceful mass protests that cannot be ignored. You know, in the past, they would just call it an insurrection or something, but this is peaceful. These are big machines. They're salt of the earth farmers or hardworking truckers that are, their whole entire economy is built on the backbone of these people. So they can't be ignored. Globalists don't know how to deal with it. They're trying to run fake narratives of violence. I saw they tried to pin some violence at some government building in Berlin or something on these protesters, but it was taken out of context completely. They're trying to run with this, and people are not buying it. Germany is being deindustrialized rapidly, and the populist wave is rising everywhere. The globalists are on the back foot. What do you think is going to happen in November in the US? Is the US going to be the only place where populist nationalism doesn't win? And I meant to say doesn't here. Very unlikely. Most of my content is not necessarily about what's happening right now, but what it means for the future. This will have dramatic consequences on trade flows and distribution of capital in the world. So go check out Ava. Make sure you're following her. These videos are good ones. She's on the scene talking to the truckers. All right. Bitcoin charts. Price discussion here. This is Will Clement III. Good follow on Twitter. And he's saying BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, and now Goldman Sachs are all soon going to be promoting Bitcoin to their clients and incorporating it in portfolio construction. You had 15 years to front run the institutions. A new era for the class, the asset class begins next week. And it could begin as soon as this week. We aren't bullish enough. At the time of writing, the price just passed 46,000. Are we to believe that 46,000 is pricing in all the too big to fail banks pumping the Bitcoin ETF to clients? And the epic flood of capital into Bitcoin coming in the next few weeks? Not a chance. And I hope this goes a long way to debunking this idea of the efficient market hypothesis. I believe in some aspects of the efficient market hypothesis. I think that some, things can get priced in. They get priced in quickly once the market knows about them. But it can't price in everything. It can't price in unknown unknowns. And that's what we're facing here. Well, we're facing known unknowns and unknown unknowns. The efficient market hypothesis cannot deal with that. So I hope this ETF approval and the ensuing spike in price is going to put some of that to bed. Oh, Point. I think you're listening here today. You had a good insight on Twitter. The plebs and people like Sailor want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And I just opened it up. Hold on. This incentivizes them to minimize their impact on the price. Yeah, because Sailor is accumulate. He's in accumulation mode. But the ETF managers aren't in that mode. They want to maximize their dollar value. They want to maximize their assets under management. They are incentivized to create bullish momentum in the price as a result. So great insight there. He also put me onto this tweet. So another one, Stackholder on Twitter made the point that everyone is paying attention to this. Large money in the Middle East, China, Japan, Europe, etc. They aren't going to be left behind. And let's actually open this one up. And I'll share this tab. Because, yeah, this is a good one. So everyone is underestimating the midterm price impact of these ETFs. And by midterm, I think he means this year, maybe even 6 months out, besides Samson Mao. And he's the one saying it's going to go to 1 million this year or something. Fidelity, BlackRock, and Templeton aren't competing for second place. They want a lot of coins ASAP, and that's just in the US. And these guys can get a lot of coins. They are Wall Street. They are serving Wall Street clients. These guys can get a lot of coins. You think other countries aren't paying attention to this race? Saudis, Emiratis, Chinese, whoever that is, could start max bidding any day now. Sure, some people will come online as holders. Okay, so I think that's a great point. These guys are watching, and these guys aren't going to be left out. Sovereign wealth funds are going to get into the game. Everybody's watching this. Okay, back to the report. Where does this leave us? On this side of the Singularity, the ETFs are definitely not priced in. The fact that people are making fun of the astronomically high price calls tells me they are possible. People don't want to believe it. Like, if there's one thing that's probably, there's way more people that think Bitcoin's going to zero than Bitcoin's going to 1 million this year. So people are always on the wrong side of things. So just by people making fun of that tells me it's possible. It is totally possible. The charts are blue skies above 48,000. Support is everywhere on the charts as well as in the fundamentals. So let's blow these up a little bit. This, of course, was earlier today, popping above this 44,193 level that we were watching for a long time. Of course, right before the D-Day for the ETFs. If you go down to the bottom, you see the RSI is about to cross into oversold or overbought, but that is a very, very strong position to be in. It means we can rally hard for another few days, 25%. And only then will we be approaching like 80 on the RSI. And at that point, you got to start looking for a top, because nothing goes up in a straight line. This is a momentum indicator. And when it's really overheated, that's when you got to start looking for a short-term break in price action. And we don't have that yet. So this could continue to go up for several days, as well as the MACD. Let me bring that back up. MACD, daily MACD is also crossing bullish again. So all this stuff is lining up to be a big bull move here very soon. And then the weekly chart, we have blue skies coming up. These are the kind of events that I'm watching. Of course, the D-Day for the ETFs, possible banking crisis at the end of Q1. And if you go back to last March's banking crisis, we jumped 40% just from the banking crisis, or at the same exact time. So they were related, because if you look at the banking crisis, like on the day, you can bring. I did this on the BM Pro, the Bitcoin Magazine Pro newsletter. I looked like to the day when Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were crashing. Bitcoin is skyrocketing on that exact same day. So they were connected. They are related. And Bitcoin rallied hard in a banking crisis. So if we have another banking crisis at the end of Q1, that's just going to be another rally. And then, of course, we have the halving coming up. So all this together, man, this could get very, very high very quickly in the next few months. All right, so that's it for price. Of course, I talk a lot more about price on the Market Protons, so you guys can check those out, the professional tier on the website. I do a weekly newsletter there, deep diving into technicals on the chart. Not just Bitcoin, but all of their assets. Like last week, I talked a lot about oil and where I saw oil going in 2024. Okay, headlines in Bitcoin mining. NASDAQ listed Bitcoin miner CleanSpark to launch in-house trading desk. CEO states it makes financial sense. And I linked to the story in the bullet point there. Last cycle, we had outfits like BlackRock leveraging Bitcoin, and you could lend your Bitcoin to BlockFi and they would lever up on it, right? Most likely they were doing a scheme with GBTC. So when GBTC was at a premium, they could buy new shares of GBTC, mint new shares of GBTC, and they could harvest the premium the same way they can harvest a premium with futures. So you can sell or you can buy the underlying, and then you can short the futures market. And if there's a premium, you can just, that's risk free pretty much. I mean, you have exchange risk, but it's pretty much risk free from a trade perspective. You're going to harvest that premium. If the premium is 10%, you automatically can get 10% on that trade. So that they were doing that with BlockFi and with GBTC, and there's a possibility they can start doing it again this time. But anyway, that's kind of a little bit beside the point. This is CleanSpark. They're launching this in-house trading desk. So this time around, it could be the miners themselves. This is definitely an area we have to think more about as an industry. It might introduce perverse incentives and increase systemic risk. I don't really like the idea of Bitcoin miners, especially the big public miners, getting involved with leverage, getting involved with trading their coins. I know that there are some out there that already do this. Let's see down here, quoted from the article. Marathon already is getting involved with this. So I don't like it. I haven't thought about it enough to see exactly what are the biggest drawbacks of this, but it just kind of introduces a whole new level of incentives for the miners. And you don't want to do that. Of course, they're free to do as they want, but man, this kind of concerns me a little bit. Okay, let's read from the article. CleanSpark is moving to utilize its Bitcoin to generate more revenue. The US-based public mining company will launch an in-house cryptocurrency trading desk, Bitcoin trading desk. This is from Bitcoin.com. Of course, I have an archived link for them because Roger Ver is an enemy of Bitcoin, and so I don't ever link to Bitcoin.com. But they're using cryptocurrency instead of Bitcoin. What a bunch of idiots. To take advantage of its Bitcoin holdings. So here they call it Bitcoin, but here they call it cryptocurrency. Later this year, according to Bloomberg, the company is seeking to put its more than 2,500 BTC to work amidst a surge in cryptocurrency prices, Bitcoin prices, due to the expectation of the upcoming approval of a Bitcoin ETF. I mean, they could just make this so much easier. So let me edit this for them. A surge in Bitcoin prices in expectation of upcoming approval of a spot ETF. They don't even have to mention cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is money. It's not currency. So currency is, it's a denomination of money. So you had back, when silver and gold were money, you might have a silver coin, like let's say the Spanish dollar, that was a currency because it was the denomination of the underlying money, however many Castilian marks it was or whatever of weight. So you have a currency as a denomination of money. Bitcoin is not a denomination of money. Bitcoin is the money. A SAT might be considered a cryptocurrency, depending on the form it's used in. LBTC, actually, liquid Bitcoin, no, because that can be in any denomination as well. So these things are money. They're not cryptocurrency. I just don't like that term cryptocurrency because it wraps so many scams into being a crypto asset. You saw Gary Gensler tweeted today about warning about crypto assets and all the scams, but he didn't say the word Bitcoin once. And he's about to approve, and he knows. And he's about to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF. And he warns about crypto assets. This cryptocurrency term is a problem, and it needs to go away. So yeah, Marathon is also doing this, and they've sold call options to generate income from its holdings. Dangerous, very, very dangerous. All right, next news item for the mining section here. Largest public Bitcoin miner breaks record with $81 million in a month. That's profit, of course. The Las Vegas headquartered Bitcoin mining firm Marathon Digital announced this month that its Bitcoin production growth has skyrocketed thanks to high transaction fees. And I looked at this a lot. It's about half of the increase in, at least this was a couple weeks ago, about half of the increase in miners' profit recently has come from fees. The other half has come from price appreciation. So, yeah, it's not all thanks to high fees. It's also thanks to price appreciation, allowing it to grow its average operational hash rate and more than triple its output from mining. Overall, the Bitcoin mining company broke a company record and logged $81 million worth of Bitcoin in December of 2023. This is kind of stuff that we talk about on the mining dashboard for Bitcoin Magazine Pro. I track all of the public miners, how much they mined each month, and what their change in their stock price is, what their market cap is. If they announce it, how many machines they have. I tried to track all that stuff, and that's all on the mining dashboard. Anyway, in total, Marathon mined 12,852 Bitcoins in the last 12 months, representing $563 million worth of Bitcoin at those current prices. So if they mined it in last February, it's going to be a different price than if they mined it in December. This effectively more than tripled its production from 2022, which came in at 4,144 Bitcoins. So here they're flip-flopping here. They're talking about Bitcoins that they mined, but then they're representing it with dollars. So I wonder if this is this must be the biggest month in dollars too, because we're at pretty high numbers here. Anyway, the same 12-month period also saw the miner gain an 18% increase in its average operational hash rate, reaching 22.4 exahash per second. They are the largest public miner. I think there's bigger miners out there, but they are definitely the largest public miner. All right. Still in the mining section, difficulty. Difficulty edged higher yesterday by 1.6%. It is currently running behind, estimating -4 or so in 11 days. So for the next one, the next adjustment. Overall, still very healthy and entering a bull market prior to a halving. So I like it. If miners, a lot of people were talking about, the halving is going to spell bankruptcy for a lot of these miners and stuff. Bitcoin's price is going to double. Bitcoin's price has already gone up 3 times off the bottom, right? It's already gone 3 times off the bottom, and it's going to double, triple here in the next probably year. It'll at least double or triple. So miners will be just fine. Okay, hash rate. Hash rate failed to make a new all-time high, but is still very strong. That's all I had to say about hash rate. We've talked about this kind of rhythm to hash rate. That could be something with day-night cycles. It could be due to a bunch of things. But we do see this kind of up and down heartbeat to the Bitcoin hash rate. Still, overall, very strong. All right, Mempool. That's one of the big topics in Bitcoin today. I say Mempool has screamed higher this week, but fees are dramatically lower. So on last week's issue, fees were $9. This week, they are just under $5. So fees are almost half where they were last week, but the Mempool has continued to climb. This could be due to that people are done preparing and moving coins around prior to the ETF approval, and or inscribers becoming more patient and lowering their fees. We'll take a look at the inscriptions here down below in a second. But you can see just a massive move, but there's not any of this see the rainbow at the top in these previous spikes? We don't see any of that rainbow going on right now. And actually, let's go check the live mempool. I don't have that tab open, so let me open it up. All right, I'm still showing $4.93, like the exact same that it was a couple hours ago. Let me refresh, and that's still saying that. Interesting. Okay, let's go to the chart and see where we're at. We'll go to the 6-month chart. We're starting to get a little color up here at the top. Let's go to 1 month. Maybe that's more clear. Just a little bit of action here, a little bit of higher fees, but you can see most of this increase has been this section. That's 20 to 30 sats per virtual byte. So these are just groups of these transactions waiting, and they're sorted by the fee that they paid per virtual byte. Very interesting. So inscribers might be doing this big chunk right here, 20 to 30, something like that. This is usually, these high fees are going to be people that are sending money to and from exchanges. In my assumption, my experience, you're willing to, if you're moving $2,000 worth of Bitcoin, you're willing to pay a $20 fee, and you're much less fee sensitive versus everyday spending, right? Like you just want to spend 20 or 30, maybe $50 worth of Bitcoin. A $20 fee puts you out. So maybe people are kind of done taking their coins off exchanges for now. They're kind of done kind of organizing their UTXOs and things. So we're not seeing that much, and we're just seeing an increase in inscriptions. But anyway, let's go back to the newsletter. Where was this? All right. So that's the mempool, but that description doesn't really match what we see going on in the inscriptions here. So they have definitely come down in number over the last couple of weeks, and they're averaging about 100,000 per day. So I don't know what moving average this brown line is. Maybe it's a 30-day moving average, but the 7-day moving average would be way down here, just over 100K per day. It definitely has come down, and we're going into a quieter period for inscriptions. All right. I also have this fees spent on inscriptions, US dollars per week. So you see there was a really high week back here in December, and it has come way down. About this looks to be about $6 million spent last week on inscriptions. And then this week, I think they started on Monday, and you can't even see anything yet. So yeah, the fees for inscriptions are coming way down. And also you can see that the high fee rate of 100 sats per virtual byte, the dark green, is much, much less last week. So it's getting cheaper. Or maybe they're more patient. All right. Last segment here, and then I'll go to read some of your comments. If you have questions or comments, put them in the chat down below. Okay, layer 2. So you guys probably know by now that I'm more bullish on a liquid style sidechain than Lightning over the next decade. And it's almost heretical to say that. I mean, I like Lightning. I think it needs to be worked on. I think the people are doing great things for Bitcoin and great things for humanity by working on a decentralized layer 2 like that. But which is going to get adopted? At least first. I don't think Lightning is going to be adopted because it's just too tied to on-chain still. Liquid is not. You can have any element sidechain. It doesn't have to be liquid, but you could have a big holder fund a bunch of LBTC. They don't have to worry. They're going to be fee insensitive, and they could, create 1,000 Bitcoins on the sidechain, and then people can just buy the LBTC and send it around on the sidechain. So it's much more scalable right away. Now, it's not as good as being decentralized. Depending on what you would qualify as good or bad. But it is federated. So it's more centralized than, of course, Lightning or being on chain. So yes, there are trade-offs, but I do think that it's going to scale. Just like the ETF, people are free to do what they want. And we can say that there is some risk with the ETF because it's centralized ownership of this stuff. But then there's also other aspects as beneficial because all these boomers are going to put all this money into Bitcoin. And then there's going to be so many people that are going to fight a Bitcoin ban. So it's going to be harder to ban Bitcoin if more people own the ETF because your incentives are aligned. So everything has pluses and minuses. It's an element on the periodic table. We can't tell you how to use the element, use the tool. We can try to teach you about it and what it offers to the world, what it offers to you. If you want to be a sovereign individual, if you want to use it for that kind of stuff, that's great. And more people will. And not more people that don't have two nickels to rub together. People that don't have two nickels to rub together aren't going to use Bitcoin to be self-sovereign. You can't be self-sovereign with zero net value or, portfolio value, your wealth. If you have zero wealth, you cannot be self-sovereign. Those people that can be the sovereign individuals are those millionaires and billionaires. And they're going to own the most Bitcoin, hands down. In a meritocratic system, you're going to get inequality. And the inequality might be higher than today. I mean, a lot of people like to look at Gini coefficients. They like to say, there's so much crony capitalism out there. But who knows if this was a purely meritocratic system, it might be higher inequality, income inequality. So bottom line is all these things have pluses and minuses. Liquid is what I think is going to be the first choice to really, really scale this. A lot of the CBDC discussions over the next couple years probably are going to roll over into sidechain discussions. How can the EU launch a Elements sidechain and use it for their CBDC? And then they'll get pegged in Bitcoin. They can back it with Bitcoin. It can be audited or maybe not, depending on how they design it. So this is going to be where the ball is going. The ball is going towards sidechains. Anyway, so mention all that to talk about Aqua Wallet. This is a new wallet from Samson Mou's Jan 3. They recently raised $21 million for it and other expansions in their product offering. Of course, they are famous for going around and talking to people and trying to onboard countries. They talk to ministers and presidents and all sorts of things. So that's their main line of business, is like evangelizing to nation states. But now they're getting involved with wallets and other things. I think they bought some NFT marketplace for ordinals, the inscriptions. Don't ask me about that because I really don't know anything about that. But yeah, so they came out with this Aqua Wallet. What I think is cool here is that Aqua interacts with Bitcoin on-chain, Bitcoin, consensus, regular Bitcoin, as well as Liquid, Lightning. And I think they go through Liquid to manage channels. They don't go through like just regular Lightning. They do it via Liquid. And you can even have Tether in there. So it's pretty cool. Of course, I'm not a current user. I don't spend my Bitcoins. But I will be trying this out the next time that I need a mobile wallet. For the time being, I'm simply an observer and like where this is headed. Liquid offers a great scaling solution for Bitcoin. Okay, and that's it, guys. If you're new here, please like, subscribe. Go to the website, bitcoinandmarkets.com, and sign up for the newsletter. Appreciate everybody joining today. Let's check out the chat. All right. Thanks for the reports and proof of work, Bitcoin and Lightning. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I've been working hard on building a good newsletter, building a good community that has value. I try to add as much value as possible to my content. And it might not be flashy, it might not be well produced, but it is, I think, somewhere where people can go to get honest talk. I mean, you watch other YouTube channels out there for Bitcoin or crypto, and you can't trust them. Can't trust a word they say. Because the first chance they get, they're going to sell you a pump and dump scam, or they have sold you a pump and dump scam. Even hardcore Bitcoiners that people that are well respected have gotten involved with pump and dumps, questionable advertisers. One of the big kind of things back, I would say, going back to 2015, 2016, a lot of the media outlets, Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, Bitcoin Magazine still at that time was more of not Bitcoin only. Now they're Bitcoin only with ordinals on the side. But most of those outlets, they started having ads for pump and dumps right there on their homepage. You can't trust people like that. So anyway, this content is community supported, listener and viewer supported. I appreciate everyone that helps, and you help me not get the wrong incentives. I keep my incentives aligned with you guys by having people support the show. So I appreciate that. Bitcoin Enlightening also says, Affini, is that different from Sats? Never heard of it. Yes, sir. It is. It is from Hal Finney. Yes, because we've had this discussion in Bitcoin. I came into Bitcoin late 2012. Maybe I heard about it 2011. And we've had this debate the whole time about unit bias, because when people see 46,000, they think, oh man, I can't afford that. But they don't understand that they can go and buy $5 worth of Bitcoin on Cash App, So, and instead they go and they buy XRP that was, Ripple for $3 or Litecoin. So these supposed substitutes were benefiting from a unit bias. That's actually a good point, because this ETF is going to take that unit bias away from them. Now they can just buy Bitcoin through the ETF for $44. So it doesn't correct it 100%, but it goes a long way to introducing people at least to the unit bias problem, and that you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. So yes, and I came up with Finney because everyone was throwing out these names for, they were even trying to rename Satoshis in the beginning. Now that's kind of been solidified that the smallest unit is going to stay and always be a Satoshi. But then there was other things like bits, that's 100 Satoshis, and milli Bitcoin. I can't remember now which one milli Bitcoin was. I think that was taking 3 decimal places off Bitcoin, so going to $45 instead of $45,000. But I came up with a Finney because I thought it was right in the middle of the 8 decimal places, 10,000 sats, or 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin. And right now it's at $4.69. When it gets to $1 million, it'll be $100. And that is a legit way you can think about value, that you're using value on a daily basis. How much does it cost me to go to the grocery store? How much does it cost me to fill up my gas, etc. So a Finney is like kind of like a Benjamin. When you talk about currency, you have all these different names. Maybe a milli Bitcoin would be like a grand, so it's a little bit more money. And a Bitcoin is like $1 million. It's like a millionaire. You're a whole coiner. So yeah, that was my denomination, and I've been using it for how many years now? Like probably 5 years, 10, not 10 years, 5 years or 6 years, and I'm gonna keep pushing it. Okay, MJ. Price supposedly used to track hash rate. Do you see that ever getting back in sync? And why did it diverge, in your opinion? Price tracking hash rate. Well, the price, like hash price, the amount of money spent to find a Bitcoin is kind of a lower end, a lower bound to price, right? And I'm blanking on the terminology of that, but the uh, price should never go below the cost to find a Bitcoin because it doesn't make sense, right? The price will approach the cost of production. So marginal revenue and marginal cost, that's what I'm looking for. Marginal revenue and marginal cost should sync up. Um, and that will never drop below, the price should never drop below that, but it will, it will get synced back up. There will be times in the bull market and the bear markets where it goes over and under, but overall that price, the cost to produce a Bitcoin, that is going to be where price tends towards. Like that's an equilibrium. Of course, we never get to an equilibrium. An equilibrium is just a concept in your mind that price tends towards something. Um, so yeah, it'll get synced back up, but there will be ups and downs in the market. Okay, Bitcoin Lightning says, nah, I bet on Lightning, decentral, and no risk, but I'm obviously biased. Well, yeah, Lightning's great, man. I really do like Lightning. I think um, it's going to have its role. I mean, you can use Lightning with Liquid, right? So there is all sorts of ways to use Lightning. Um, the the Achilles heel, though, is that it's too closely linked to on chain. And if you want to open up a new channel in the future, I mean, we're talking after post hyper Bitcoinization, fees are going to be $50 to $100. And that is just not doable to be opening and closing channels on a regular basis. You know, you don't want to spend $50 in fees every day. So long term, there are problems for it. Um, but anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Thanks for joining. Okay, let me go over to Telegram and see if they have any comments. Yeah, what's up, dudes? So before we went live on YouTube and Telegram, we have like a pregame on our YouTube and Rumble. Sorry, we have a pregame on Telegram, and I was saying that my son, he's 6 years old, and he was like, "Dad, you're a streamer, right? I want to be a streamer. I want to stream Minecraft or something like that." And Point says that his son wants to be a streamer too. Let's see. Yeah, well, he wants to be, I'm trying to put in his mind that I want him to be a blue collar guy, you know, be an electrician and after he gets established to start his own business. I also told him he could be an excavator driver and own an excavator. And he was like, wow, that would be so cool. And every time we drive past an excavator, he's always watching it and he's like obsessed with it. So I hope he picks something like that in the future, but I'll use whatever influence I have. Would be fun to cover the nonsense letter to SEC by Dennis Keller from Better Markets. Yeah, I did see that, but I didn't spend too many brain bites on it. DT, if you could link that, maybe I'll cover that in another show. Selling some shares to show them that you don't like that. Yeah, that's I mean, yeah, you can talk with your dollars, right? If you if you own some Clean Spark shares and they are starting to do some risky business with having a trading desk and trading on their holdings, a whole new line of business that could just blow up in your face. Yeah, I would sell those shares. I would be surprised that they didn't lose when these miners do this, that it won't be a big hit to their bottom line. They're going to have spin-offs. You know, you spin off a company, man. Sell your Bitcoin, mine your Bitcoin, sell it to your sister company to do this. Don't involve it in the mining process in your line of business. Oh, NCAA football is starting right now. Yep. Who's playing? Michigan, Washington? Well, hopefully Michigan wins. I'm a Big Ten guy from Nebraska originally, so Big Ten guy now. All right. That's going to be it, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry for the later stream. Make sure you're subscribed at bitcoinandmarkets.com. Make sure you're subscribed on Rumble or YouTube if you're watching there. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.